Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Titans Season 1. And this is going to be my review for Episode 9 for this season, the third last episode, otherwise entitled Hank and Dawn. But of course, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it and then come back to this video later on because we're going to be talking about spoilers, because why wouldn't we? But last episode, we obviously had the introduction of Donna Troy, but it really has nothing to do with this episode. The only thing that's really relevant is the whole thing that happened right at the end where Raven taps into Starfire, and basically Starfire remembers her mission, which was to take down and kill the Raven. And that's really the only thing that's relevant from last episode. But then everything else before that is relevant to this episode is the stuff with Hawk and Dove, where Dove or Dawn was thrown off the building and essentially is comatose. And that's where we pick up, essentially. Now, it was cool seeing the OG Hawk and Dove combo of Hank Hall and Don Hall. So, obviously, they're different race brothers, have the same, I think it's the same mother, but different fathers and stuff like that. But I thought their relationship throughout the episode I thought it was actually pretty good to watch, even though quite brief. I was actually sort of surprised that it was that brief, but it was still cool to see them interact and see like this OG combo. But essentially the source of a lot of, Hank's anger, not only in this episode, but from what we've seen previously, is essentially an incident from when he was a kid, where we get some Hank flashbacks. He's really good at football. When he's older, he's good at football as well. But we see this coach, and his coach is approaching Don, and Don's his, younger brother. So Don's younger than him, more impressionable and more innocent. And Hank's trying to protect him. So essentially, the coach is a pedo. If you don't like the word pedo, you're not going to enjoy this review, because pedo is going to be a word I use a decent amount, or pedophile, but I'm just going to call them pedos. So the coach is a pedo, and essentially he's targeting Don. However, Hank knows exactly what's going on, and it's essentially taking a bullet for Don. At this very young age, Hank is taking a bullet for Don. It's just one of those situations where either Don gets assaulted, in this way by the coach, or it's him because of what the coach is threatening. So Hank takes the bullet for Don in a very courageous manner, even at a very young age. And it just shows how protective Hank is of Don, even at this young age. And this whole thing about these brothers protecting each other goes into the college football flashbacks, where we see Hank is this college football star. However, he is suffering from concussions and stuff like that, like multiple concussions. Football, it's a massive thing. We get it in both, in the NFL with the American football, and then other codes of football like rugby league and rugby union in Australia where I live. So concussions are always a big issue in regards to these physical sports. And Don, once again, is concerned about his brother and does the thing that really his brother doesn't want him to do, which is to rat him out that he is suffering from these concussions. But it's because of the whole, it's for the welfare of his brother, because he cares about him. And I must say, nothing screams late 2000s party like a G6. When I heard that come on, I was like, that's just so typical. But I must say, this all leads into a confrontation between Hank and Don in the library. However, we do get a cool, masked Hawk and Dove fight between them and the other students in there, which I thought was pretty cool. But essentially, Hank and Dawn become pedo hunters. That's really the birth of the Hawk and Dove thing. We don't actually see too much of them as Hawk and Dove, because I don't think it's necessary. We know that they were the OG Hawk and Dove when the suits weren't very good, but we don't have to have that shoved down our throats. And that was one thing this episode did actually really, really well, was not shove things down our throats. You don't have to, put it in front of everyone's faces. Like, the audience isn't dumb. We know what these people are and what other people are as well. We get things. We don't have to be, spoon-fed them all the time. So I think this episode did actually a pretty good job with that. But yeah, essentially they're pedo hunters. We do see an example of that early on when they're on the rooftop. It's I think it was the opening scene, and they find that guy and then film it and all of that. And we see that footage pop up again later on. But this then cuts to us seeing Dawn as a ballet dancer, and she's basically, her mother's there. Her mother's English. And her mother is, I wasn't too sure if there was a stepfather or just an abusive partner who abused Dawn and her sister as well. So abusive, parenting, and just abusive people involved there, obviously. So obviously Dawn isn't a big fan of that. But as fate would happen, we see Hank and Dawn bump into each other on the street. And unfortunately, it isn't a happy moment. It's not a beautiful thing to remember. Like the first time these two met each other, it's a tragic moment because randomly, massive tragedy. Just this massive van slams in. At first, I was like, holy crap, what the hell happened? Because I wasn't expecting it. Caught me off guard. Like, I think this is probably the thing on Titans the most of this caught me off guard. That van coming in. But Dawn is killed and Dawn's mother is killed in the same thing. They're basically together while Hank and Dawn were together. And the van unfortunately hits Dawn as well as Dawn's mother. So they both die, I'd say instantly, due to that crash. And it wasn't anything where Hank and Dawn had someone to blame, because it was a complete accident. It was just one of those things that happens. But essentially we see Hank and Dawn go to grief counseling, which, you know, you can understand why those two were struggling, and how just them two together at the bar to start off with was better grief counseling. You know, talking groups isn't the biggest thing for some people. And I did like how they did not try to shove that whole grief counseling thing down our throats. They did like 2 scenes, I think, there. And the rest was just really those two together, which I thought was great. But the bonding scenes between Hank and Dawn I thought were great. Like, just between those two, dealing with loss actually brought them much closer together and did change their lives. And it was very emotional, this episode, just watching those two together, just seeing how broken down, especially Hank was, but also Dawn as well. And just seeing them, you know, slowly rebuild themselves together, even though they're dealing with this massive loss. I thought that was actually really, really well done. Now, we do get some like slight comedy in this episode, even though it was pretty tragic in a lot of areas. We do get some slight comedy, and that's when like Dawn finds out about Hank and Don's like vigilante activities and stuff like that as like the OG Hawk and Dove. Just her watching that old footage, which, you know, was funny in the beginning, and also, you know, it's comedic when she's watching it again. So you can see that the lighthearted comedic side of it. However, she does, you know, then tap into the whole dark past of Hank and the whole coach thing, which, once again, this was something that the show did fairly well. Like, I think they did it very tastefully, because you are dealing with, as I said, some pedophilic activity, child abuse, like sexually and stuff like that. So I think this episode did it in a very smart way, where the scene where we see Hank as a kid walk into the room, it's just the door shutting. They don't need to show anything graphic. And Titans, really, if they can do whatever they want, they can be as graphic as they want to a degree. Like, it can't obviously be pornographic, but they can be graphic if they want to. They could, you know, they could go to the next level if they wanted to, without, you know, going too far. However, they do it pretty tastefully, in my opinion, even though they are dealing with a bit of a touchy subject. And even when Hank's recalling and stuff, they don't show him going into detail. They just show clearly to the audience where they're heading and then cut off, and that's all they need to do. And I thought they did that really well and tastefully. So you got to give Titans props to that. And this episode was written by Jeff Johns, so that was just a little note there. So I think that's why this episode was done fairly well. But obviously, because that coach comes back into it, we see Dawn go after the coach with Hank following, and essentially there's just some revenge that's taken care of, which, you know, that's pretty, you know, it's deserved. I mean, that dude was a creep. He just didn't deal with Hank at that certain stage. Like, Dawn finds all those photos on the computer and stuff like that. So this dude's once a creep, always a creep, as we all say. But I must say, the Hank and Dawn nude scene, wasn't expecting it. Obviously, it was like it was dark, so they aren't going full on nude. However, they are setting a precedent for the DC universe. So if I do not see a Swamp Thing penis, we riot. So Swamp Thing penis, riot. If not, you know, DC universe, Jeff Johns, you hear me? James Wan, you're executive producing that Swamp Thing show. Swamp Thing penis. Right now. But throughout the episode, we had like Raven communicating through like the dreams and stuff like that, because obviously these flashbacks, if you didn't realize, were happening through Hank's dreams, then Dawn's dreams as well. So, you know, it wasn't working with Hank. We saw Raven there, I think once or twice, just wasn't working. But with Dawn, it works. But with Dawn, there's an added positive to this, because it wakes her up from her comatose stuff. So she's awake now. So yay. But I was wondering, okay, is Raven just telling them, like, come help me, Starfire's gone crazy? However, she's told Dawn to find Jason Todd. So Jason Todd's coming back into it. I didn't know he was coming back into it. I thought they were just going to do that episode, like, 2 or 3 weeks ago? And that was his introductory episode, but we got him again. So we're getting him, I'm guessing, next week, or maybe the finale. It could be just the finale that he comes back into it. Either way, we're getting him back, so that's really cool. But overall, this episode, it still comes down to the issue, I think, with the DC universe, with Titans at least, where this was obviously meant to be a binge watch show. So if you're watching this binge watch, this is a perfect episode to just calm you down from the events of last episode, where Starfire's gone crazy, and just sets up some stuff. I can't speak. Sets up some stuff, most likely for the finale, because I think next week Hawk and Dove probably won't be in there. It'll most likely be they come into the finale with Jason Todd. But just set some stuff up there. So if you're watching this in a binge watch, it works. I could understand, if someone to argue that this sort of ruins some tempo. But for me, I really enjoyed this episode, fleshing out the backstory of these two characters and showing the hardship that they faced and what brought them together. I thought that was really well done, and just the connective tissue it does to bring these two characters into the most likely finale, even though it could possibly be next week's episode as well. Hard to tell, but I really enjoyed the Hawk and Dove episode we had earlier in the season, which was episode 2 or 3. And having, I think it was episode 2, and then having this Hank and Dawn episode as well. It's a really nice companion piece with that early episode as well. And I just really enjoyed it. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Just give me your overall opinions down there in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.